How are you, dear students? I hope you are all fine. Okay, so today we are going to talk about vectors. Let's go to the code part. So previously we have talked about functions, how functions are working. We talked about return type functions like integer, which should have, return type should be, which should have a return type. In fact, when I'm writing integer main, because it's not getting, or if you are thinking about the orange juice stuff, so I can simply make this one instead of integer main, void main without any problem. Because in fact, what's important here is it doesn't return or retrieve something. In fact, it is only printing out something. Either I'm writing integer main and then return 0 or void main, they are doing the same job. Okay, so if you want to use what are the vectors? In fact, vectors, they are we said arrays. We said vectors are the same as array, but when we studied array, we said they are not their size cannot be changed. Once we have created, their size cannot be changed. So this is one of the points when using arrays, and the difficulties in using arrays. That's why we are using vectors. So vectors, the size of the vector is let's say resizable. So I can either add more elements without any problem and delete any element I wanted without any problem at all. So I can delete and I can add, I can update to the elements of the vector. But in fact, in arrays, which was a list, a vector is as well as a list. Um, in arrays, we couldn't change the size of the array. We created a size of 10, and that was 10 during the whole program. If we get out, run out of, let's say, places inside the array, we are supposed to hard code and change the size of the array and then re-enter all the elements again, because we didn't have any other solution. We couldn't add more elements to the size of the array. That was an error happening to us, array overflow, which means that it's filled and okay. Okay, but in vectors we don't face such problems. In vectors, uh, it's like an array and the size is changeable. I can put element either from the front or from the end, and I can change anything I wanted. Okay, more than speaking, let's start the coding. In order to use arrays, we should use vectors. We should include a vector. So we need a special library for it. Okay, a vector library. When I'm starting it, I will say, first of all, it's just in some point, it is just like an array in the point of having a special type. We said we would have different arrays of different types. Let's say integer array having a size of 5. This was like, this is the type, this is the name, and this is the size of the array. In fact, vectors are very similar to this. We have the type. Before that, we are saying vector, and I'm writing the type. So this vector, this is a vector type, and the elements it will get, they are integers. So it only will, let's say, will be filled with only integers. Okay, and what's the name for it? Let's say vector vector ID. I will say, and I'm closing it. So right now I have created my first vector. What's the size of the vector? Right now I don't have any size, but if I wanted, I can put something like this and say that the size is 10. So right now I have a vector, the type is integer, and the name is vector ID, and the size is 10. If I wanted to see the size, how many elements I can put inside this vector, I simply can say vector ID dot size. So we have studied function. There's a special function to to let's say to see the size of the vector, because the size of a vector is always changing when I add elements or delete elements. So it's better always to when I wanted the size of the vector, I should write the name of the vector then dot size to see the size of the vector. Otherwise it's impossible to know how many elements I have inside the vector. And I will give an end line. So this is my first line. I'm running my program, see out vector size and end line. So we will see the size of our vector is 10. Okay. Okay. This way we are able, if I add another element or if I pushed another element into the vector, I will be able to see the size. Okay, let me initialize the vector first of all. How I'm going to initialize it, just like a normal array, I can initialize it. I can have a for loop and I will say integer I 0 to 10, and I'm going to say vector ID just like an array at I position equals to I plus 1. Okay, that's everything. I'm going to put everything inside here and control F5, so everything will be done and that's it. Okay, uh, let's see what are the elements. Another for loop, integer I 0, I smaller than 10, and then cout vector ID. Here I can write just like this, the same as array. Here I can give a tab /t, and yeah, okay. Here I can write something like this. It is, if you see this, this is totally the same as array, or I can use functions for this purpose. I can say vector ID dot, and then you may see that pushback size begin clear assign add. Okay, I can use one of them. Let's say begin, and then size stuff like that. We will talk about each of them. Right now, let's go in the classic way. Okay, let's try the other one as well. First of all, the classic way, then the other one. Okay. Let's see the classic way. This one is, I'm supposing that the array, the vector is just like an array. So I will control F5 it, and before that I'll give an inline just to make it separated, and control F5. So it is giving the size. So we have, this one is inserted some value into the vector, and this one is showing me some value. So 1, 2, 3 until 10. These are the values printed from the second loop, and this 10 is the size of the vector we have printed after that. Okay. So what we have learned is a vector and initialize the vector of a type. We said it's the same as an array, and we initialized it using a for loop, and we counted it using another for loop. Now, I said we will use some other technique using vector functions to print this out. So I will say vector ID dot at, so I'm going to use the I. So this basically means that please show me the element at I position. Show me this element at I position. I position at the first time it is 0. So at 0 position, show me the vector element, and then 1 position, and then so on. So this way as well, it will show me the same result of 1, 2, 3, and then until 10, and then the second 10 is the size of the vector. So, okay, so we have studied vector ID at thing, okay, the function. Okay, right now, when we had arrays, we didn't have anything more. That's everything. But in the case of vectors, after here, let me just after here, I will put some more elements into the vector. Right, the size of the vector right now is 10, but I can change it when I added one element more. So I can say vector id dot and then pushback. Pushback means send one more element into the backside of the vector. And my element is 11. And control, and then I just put a semicolon. So right now, right now, look at the size and look at this. Control F5, I'm running my code. And here in the second for loop, it will start from 1 to 10. It will show me from 1 to 10. Then there's no cout for the pushback, but the size of the vector will change after this line. So you see here it is 1 to 10, but the size of the vector is what? Is 11, but we didn't show it. If I take this second for loop after here, and instead of writing 10, my vector size right now is not 10. So it is always recommended when you are using vectors, instead of the end limit, you put v dot size. So this way, according to the size of the vector, it will go starting from 0 until the size of the vector. So I control press F5 and you see 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11. I have how many elements? 11 elements, and the size is 11. Okay, okay. If I write 15 and control F5, let's run my program. I will have until 10, but I will print until size. What will be the problem? Well, what will be the result? I'm just wondering. Okay, so it is 1 till 10. It is inserted 1 until 10. Then all the other members, the other elements, become what? Becomes, you see, became 0. So it is by default initialized. And the last element is 11. And it says 16 is the vector size. Okay? Okay, very nice. So this way we studied vector size, we studied vector add, we studied vector pushback. Okay, and then let me now we inserted some numbers. I want to delete a number here. After everything, I have 16 elements. I want to delete something. How I can do this? So if we want to delete something, I will say vector ID dot, and then instead of pushback, I'm just pop back. I'm just searching, but pushback, pop back. Okay, so pop back. And I'm going to say, because that I'm not inserting something, I'm deleting something. That's why when I'm popping this back, the size of the vector will change. So I will copy this just before here. So a vector size before popback and a vector size directly after the popback. Okay. I have 15 elements here, and I added one. It becomes 16. So the vector size, this one is should be 16. Control F5. Let's run our program and let's see. Uh, it needs sometimes maybe to run, or there's a problem. Yes. Okay. So 1, 2, 3 until 9, then 10, then 11, then it becomes, yeah, this one should be 11. And then the size before the pop back was 16. The size right now is 15. The previously 16, right now 15. Okay, so this way I was able to delete an element from the vector. So this way, this is a very good thing right now to register our data, to put our data in, and to take out our data, to delete, to update, or to do anything with my data. Okay. Uh, Let us do something more. I want to edit a value. So I will write just after the pushback, I will say vector ID, the same as array. At which position? At position 10, I want to make it 22. And that's it. So I'm updating, in fact. So there was a value here being assigned to vector ID 10 at 10 position, uh, and I'm going to change it. So this way, we will come to a point that I will be updating my vector according to the user input. Okay, so let's run our program and see. Yes, we have updated our results, our values, this one into 22. Okay, so I can push back, I can pop back, I'm able to see the size, I'm able to see at each position I have the value, and that's everything. Okay, let's copy all these things and take them out. And let's have a real life maybe example. Okay, let's see this one as well. Okay, oops. Okay, what I have is this. I'm going to create two vectors. So vector and the this one is integer. I will say ID, and I'm going to give a size, let's say 20, and I want to initialize directly. How I can initialize it? There are two ways before going to the example. If I want to initialize all the elements, I'm going to say 0. So this way, it means I'm going to create 20 elements, all initialized with 0, like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, how many elements? 20 elements. If I want to initialize all the elements with 1 by default, so this way, all the elements inside is 1. So if I have a for loop, I will say integer I from this to id dot size, and I will say id dot at which position, at I position, and mi, and then cout. So I have a vector. It's all initialized with 1, and I'm just going to I'm just printing it. You see, I have 20 elements. By default, I give a value. Okay, so this one I will make it 0. So how many vectors I have? I have one vector. I will create the second vector. What's my vector? Vector, and I will say string. So I have a vector of string, and it is name. I don't give any value to it. In order to use string, it's recommended to use string library. So uh, I'll put string here. Okay. So how many libraries I have? I have string vector and string right now. How many elements I have? Okay, two vectors I have. If I write vector name dot size, let's see. Okay, so I want to write the, let's say, print the size of the vector which I have declared, but I didn't put any size on it. Okay, I'm going to print it, and let's see. So it says the size of the vector you are saying is 0. So this one, the name is 0. Okay, I will push back some value. So I will say name dot pushback, and I will put some string into it, Ahmed, and I will refresh it. Control F5. Now the size of the vector is 1, so it will automatically increase. Okay, okay, that's very nice. So I have two vectors right now. I will have initialized this one, so I will delete this one. Okay, very nice. Now I have the name dot size. I'm going to comment this, and I will say so integer, maybe not integer, char decide equals to y, and I will say this one, let it be like this, while decide equals to y, or decide equals to y, we will have some input. So what I'm basically doing, I'm going to have some ID and some name for some to get some name, some ID from the user, and registering some students, and according to the user's decision, I want to make it either continue or finish it. Okay. Okay, very nice. So what we need right now, so user have insert by right now it's y, and I will say c in. So user will insert something. Before that, we will make user insert something. Let's say insert user ID or student ID, and this is where's the user ID? The variable is the ID dot, and I will simply say integer ID IDD. I'll put 3 ID and then IDD. So user will insert an ID to this place, and what I do is I'm going to say ID dot pushback. So then I'm sending some that IDD into the vector. There can be other ways, yes, of course, there can be other ways, but this is one way. Okay, so ID dot pushback. Okay, very nice. And is there a problem here? What is it saying? A pointer to a bound function? Let's see. And according to that, we'll do some solution. We'll make some solution for it. Okay. If I let me check it if there's a problem. If not, okay, it says there's a problem. Okay, should be instead letter. Okay, let's fix our problems. Okay. Okay. Here, this is, in fact, it is a function, and we shouldn't have something like this. We should have like the braces, not the array stuff. It shouldn't be like this. It should be like this. Okay, let's run our program again, and let's see if there is any problem. Okay, there's no problem. Okay, very nice. What else I have? I have, let's make this one. Yeah. and copy this one as well. Insert user name, and this one is name. This one, not name, username. Username, and I'm going to create another variable. Here, the variable type is string. Because I'm doing right now, I'm creating two variables inside, either to be these variables inside the while loop or outside the while loop, there's no problem, okay? Why there's no problem? Because, well, I don't need to process on them. It's only declaring them, and I'm directly after that putting some value into them, and that's it. Well, that's why I don't. It's not a big deal either to have these two variables outside or inside. And this one is name. Okay, right now we have inserted a username and an ID into the name and into the what's the other? Where is the other array? The other vector? Did I delete it? Okay, I will say ID. And this one is ID. So I am inserting an ID to here, and I'm inserting a username directly to the name vector. Okay, okay, very nice. And I will say, ask the user if he wants to continue or not. To continue, press Y or Y. And then end line, and I'm getting something decide from the user. So this way I'm able to make this program to to make it continue until the user tries to finish it. And I will have another for loop, integer I smaller than which of them, not a big deal, name dot size, because both are containing the data for the same purpose. And I'm going to see out, and then I will say id dot at I position, show me the value, then give a tab, and then name dot at which position, at I position, and then an end line. There's a problem here. You may think of it. Let's run our program, and you will see the problem we are going to face it. Let's see. Maybe it needs some time to run. Okay, insert user ID 1, insert username Ahmed. No. Okay. Here, what do you see? 0 and Ahmed, but I inserted 1. Why is that? Okay, you see, in fact, I have Ahmed, but because we have initialized it, the first array into some zeros, that's why when I am saying pushback, it takes an element into the last. So this will be 21. That's why. If I'm going to initialize or declare this, I should declare this as well, or vice versa. So right now I didn't declare the name, and I will not declare this one because I want them to be in the same position. Right now I run my program again, and this time I will not face that problem, and I will say Ahmed, and then no, then one Ahmed. Okay, very nice. So it's a very nice thing to like you may create a project. According to that, you can insert, and according to that, we may delete and edit. So this is the point we are going to see. Uh, let's see. I have inserted 1A, 2, yeah, let's see, Y, 2 and then B, and then continue 3 and then D, continue 4 and C. Yeah, C. So how many values I have? I have 4 values right now. I mean 4 rows of value. If I wanted to delete it, 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 values. I want, if I wanted to edit the second value, I mean by automatically. So let's say which element, the program will ask me which element you wanted to edit. Then I will press 2, which means that I want to edit the name inside the second element. Okay, so this way I'm able, like, this will make the program more meaningful and more like real life applications. I'm able to edit it, and I'm able, if I say I want to delete the second element, so this way there will be 1, and then there will be A and B and C. There will be no B at all. So this way, it's like updating, deleting, and it's like a real life application. Okay, very nice. Until now, it's okay. So we inserted some numbers, we initialized it, we created 2 types of vectors, and we initialized them by default, and then we said we showed them the size, and what else? We pushed back some value, we popped back some value from it, and we showed them at that position. So we somehow right now we know what does the vector is about.